Sagittarius, there is a truth you've never been told, a truth that might bring tears to your eyes, not because it's sad, but because you'll realize you've been missing something sacred all this time. And now, the universe will no longer let you live in the dark. In this video, I will not only tell you something strange, I will reveal a sacred sign, one that only Sagittarians who are entering a phase of destiny rebirth can truly feel. Stay until the end, because the shock does not lie at the beginning, but at the moment you finally understand who you are and why everything once hurt so deeply. If you feel this message stirring something inside you, don't hesitate. This is not a fleeting emotion. It is a bell from the universe, ringing just as you are ready. I am ready to embrace the sacred truth of who I am. Write it down. That comment is not just a declaration. It is how you activate the energy of the universe, guiding you toward a greater destiny. And if you think you already know everything about yourself, get ready, because in the next part, you will realize the Sagittarius you used to be is gone, and a new version is being born in silence. There are souls born to live peacefully, and then there are those forged in fire, shaped by lightning, sent to this world with one purpose only: to awaken sleeping souls in others. Sagittarius, you are one of those souls. When you entered this world, you brought something very special with you, not gentleness, not charming looks, but truth, raw, radiant, not armored, not polished, not seeking permission. In astrology, Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, wisdom, and ultimate truth. It's no coincidence you can't live within limits, not because you're rebellious, but because your soul remembers that it was once free. When Jupiter forms a trine with the moon as it does now, and the full moon in Aquarius activates the 9th house, the house of spirituality, philosophy, and soul journeys, something strange happens. Sagittarians carrying ancient soul codes begin to awaken, and that awakening is not gentle. I've observed hundreds of charts from people with strong Sagittarius energy, and there's always one thing in common. They are not loved for being gentle. They are listened to because they are not afraid to speak the truth. But there is a cost. How many times have you spoken the truth and been hurt for it? How many times have you entered a space, felt the dissonance, and simply couldn't pretend not to see it? How many times have you said the thing everyone else was too afraid to say? And then you were misunderstood, criticized, set apart from the crowd, but you kept going, because within you there's a calling louder than the fear of being left behind. You are the messenger, a walking thunderbolt, guided by Jupiter, marked by the heavens, with a sacred unrest that will never let you sleep too long. You don't need to be the most liked, you don't need to be safe, because your soul didn't come here to sit politely. At a banquet of illusions, you came to awaken those who have been asleep for too long. Some souls are born to clear the path, not to be applauded. You are not the kind of light people simply look at. You are the kind of light that shows the way. And that light is not always easy to bear. Don't let the silence of the world make you question the value of your voice. Don't let cold eyes shut down the fire burning within you, because if you stop burning, the entire forest will fall into darkness. Have you ever been told you were too blunt? Write it down. You may not be alone. Share your truth in the comments, because sometimes one honest word from you could save someone else from feeling wrong, for being too real. And if you've ever felt lonely for speaking the truth, remember, those who carry truth walk ahead of the crowd and are often the first to be stoned. In your soul's DNA is the memory of nomadic teachers, ancient philosophers, those who lived lifetimes in forests and deserts, just to learn what is truly real. And that's why you simply cannot live a lie. You can't endure half-hearted relationships. You can't survive meaningless work. You hate pretense so deeply, you would rather walk away in silence than live as others expect. So if lately you've been feeling called to leave a place, a person, or an old version of yourself, trust this, you are not lost. Your soul is whispering, bringing you back to your true path. The full moon in Aquarius is activating your 9th house, the sacred house of life, philosophy, faith, and higher vision. This is not a random event. It is a summoning, a turning point in your destiny. Do you feel like you're slowly drifting away from the things that once made you excited? Are you losing interest in shallow conversations? And is the urge to write, to speak, or simply to leave growing stronger than ever? This is not a crisis. This is a spiritual reconstruction. You don't need to understand everything in order to move. You only need to be honest about what you're feeling and courageous enough not to turn back. You are Sagittarius, and your greatest calling doesn't come from the world outside, but from the fire inside your heart. If you're hearing this and it feels like it's speaking directly to you, right? I am ready to live in alignment with my truth, even if I must walk alone. Because you are not alone. There are thousands of Sagittarius souls hearing this same calling right now. But the most shocking part hasn't arrived yet. Because when a Sagittarius begins to speak the truth to themselves, the universe will show you something even more staggering. You're no longer living in the old world. And in the next part, we will explore: why has a door quietly closed, but you haven't noticed? Who is watching you silently from afar, preparing to call you into a new journey? If you're ready, walk with me into part Roman 2, because what you're about to discover won't just change the way you see yourself, it may unravel you. Have you felt that something has changed, but you can't quite name it? It wasn't a dramatic event. It wasn't someone leaving. It was something inside you, quietly closing, like a door gently sliding into the past, without a sound, and you only noticed it when you stood in a place that used to feel familiar, but suddenly you no longer belonged. In astrology, the fourth house is the house of spirit and home. It is where your soul returns after every journey. It is not just your parents, your family, or the house you grew up in. It's the deepest emotional root of who you are. And when Saturn goes retrograde here, something ancient begins to stir. It's not loud, not dramatic, but unmistakable. A chapter is quietly ending right within your subconscious. I believe that the most important chapters in life don't close with a slam, but with silence. Not everyone can sense it, but you can, because you've always felt when something in your soul begins to crack. Even if it's the tiniest fracture, you begin to notice a very small but very real distance between you and the place you once called home. It's not that you're changing too fast, it's that the old world can no longer hold you. That's not a sign that you've lost something, it's a sign you're being given something back. Not every departure needs to be spoken aloud. Sometimes a loving silence is the deepest kind of goodbye. No blame, no judgment, no need for any explanation. Just this simple truth: the energy no longer connects. You are not ungrateful for needing to leave. You are simply listening to the voice of your soul. Do you feel like a stranger in your own home? You're not wrong, something has already closed, and now you are being called to leave. Not to run away, but to return to yourself. It is a quiet feeling, but very real, when you find yourself sitting in a familiar room, hearing familiar words, seeing familiar faces, and yet you feel like a guest. In your own life, if you are feeling this, you are not alone. The universe is quietly preparing a path for you to step into a new chapter. Have you ever felt like you no longer belonged in a place that once felt like home? Write that experience down, because someone else may be feeling exactly like you and needs to know they're not alone. Sometimes your story is the flicker of light that helps someone else find the exit out of their maze. Maybe there was no argument, no clear event that forced you to go, but you left anyway, in your thoughts, your emotions, your dreams, because an invisible crack had formed in the moments when people didn't understand you and you stopped trying to explain. It's not that you forgot the old place. It's that you no longer found yourself there. You no longer felt joy in the place you used to call home. You no longer felt sorrow thinking about those who once meant everything. You no longer felt the need to explain why you chose a different path. That is the sign of closure, and you don't need to feel guilty for it. One of Sagittarius' deepest wounds is believing they must stay in order to prove loyalty. But sometimes the greatest loyalty is to the truth within you. You cannot stay in a place just because someone else thinks you should. You cannot cage yourself within old memories just to avoid disappointing others. You are not a failure for choosing to walk away. You are simply living in truth with yourself. That is the moment when the universe asks you, do you dare believe that something better is waiting ahead? Saturn retrograde doesn't come to punish. It comes to liberate you from what you no longer need to hold. And sometimes those very things are what you once loved most. If someone blames you for changing, for growing distant, for not being the same anymore, remember, you owe no one the sacrifice of your soul just to keep a version of yourself they've grown comfortable with. You have the right to walk away even if no one understands. You have the right to change even if that change makes others uncomfortable. And if one door has quietly closed, then the next door is about to open. Not because you forced it, but because you're finally ready to meet someone who won't hold you in the past, but will look straight at you and say, You are the one I've been waiting for all along. There are encounters that don't need a reason, no promises, no preparation. They arrive like a quiet wind but leave a mark on your heart that never fades. And if lately you felt as if someone is looking toward you not with eyes but with a quiet kind of intuition, then maybe you are being called by a soul who once journeyed with you from long, long ago. Venus, the planet of connection and love, is moving through your third house, the house of communication, learning, and soul-linked messages. It's not a coincidence. The third house isn't just about messages. It's about the invisible signal our souls send and receive. And if you've been paying attention, have you noticed strange synchronicities lately? A name repeating in your dreams, a pair of eyes you can't forget, a stranger who somehow feels like you've known them for a very long time. That's not random. That's a soul summons. I have believed, then forgotten, then believed again that we don't need to find the right person. We only need to be ready and that person will appear. Sometimes you don't need to search far or chase endlessly. They will come when you open a space inside you to receive. Maybe they are a teacher, a soul you once loved, a connection carried across lifetimes, or simply a completely ordinary person. But when you look into their eyes, you feel like you've always been part of one another. Not everyone who comes will stay. They come like the wind, but leave as a scar upon the soul. But there are those who arrive to awaken you. They bring no promises. They don't need to stay forever. They only come to gently stir something inside you that had fallen asleep. And through their mere presence, you remember who you were. Have you ever met someone who made you feel like you'd been remembered, even though you'd never met before? As if your soul knew them long before you were born. That's not imagination. That's soul memory. A kind of knowing that doesn't live in the brain, but in a deeper realm where time doesn't exist. Tell the story of when you felt the universe orchestrated a meeting for you and that person changed you forever. Write it below because someone out there might be waiting for a reason to believe those kinds of meetings are real. That person may have never touched you, but they saw you, not your appearance, but your essence. You may not have been able to say a single word in that moment. You only felt your heart fall silent and something within you began to crack so the light could come in. It could be an old friend suddenly returning, but no longer the person they once were. It could be someone entirely new, yet they somehow know exactly what you've been hiding inside. It could be someone you once rejected, but your souls never stopped connecting. Or maybe it's you, a future version of yourself calling you to come home because you've completed a cycle. You've closed the old doors. You've stopped waiting for someone else to come and save you. You've begun living from the most honest version of who you are. And in that very moment, your energy changed. And they, the one who's been searching for you, finally recognized where you are. No need for long conversations. No need for elaborate exchanges. Just a look, a moment, and you know, they've come a long way to find you. You know, you don't need to impress them. You know, they're not here to fill your emptiness. They're here to walk with you into a new door. It's not about who they are, it's that they already knew who you were even before you knew it yourself. They see the part of you you still try to hide. They touch the part of you you're afraid to touch. They love the thing you thought was a flaw. They choose the part you believed no one could ever understand. This is not a romantic destiny. This is a soul contract. And if they've come and if you are ready, if your heart has started to beat to a new rhythm, then what happens next will change every definition you ever had of yourself, because you're about to enter a process you cannot walk back from, a place where you can no longer live half-truths, no longer hide behind fear, because your soul has been fully awakened. And in the next part, we will walk into that journey, the journey where you must choose between the old, safe and familiar, or a future, uncertain but full of truth. There are moments in life that you simply can't name. Not a big turning point, not a dramatic event. Just one morning you wake up, look in the mirror, and realize you are no longer the person you used to be. You look into your own eyes, and you don't see the old fear, you don't see the silent pleading. Only one thing remains, a quiet, soft, but steady light, the light of a soul reborn from ashes. The new moon, symbol of beginning, is now illuminating your first house. The house of self, of personal identity, of your deepest I am. But this time, it is not the old you. Not the Sagittarius who smiled too wide to hide the pain. Not the Sagittarius who typed messages and deleted them. Who cried in silence. Who held on to what was never meant to stay. You are no longer the Sagittarius of yesterday. You are being rewritten cell by cell, thought by thought, heartbeat by heartbeat. I once thought Dying was something loud and violent. But it turns out some deaths are quiet, so quiet, no one even notices. They don't need funerals. They don't need goodbyes. They only need for you to let go of one ancient root inside your heart. And then you find yourself walking forward. Lighter, letting go of an old identity is one of the most courageous acts a soul can perform, because we don't just release the pain, we release the very things that helped us survive. We let go of the armor of strength, the vow that said, I'll never trust again. The habit of living for others to begin, learning how to live for ourselves, not selfishly, but truthfully. You are no longer the one who sent that message that night, no longer the one who cried alone after being rejected, no longer the one who wrote 1,000 words they never dared to send. You are a version reborn from the very place you once thought was your ending, and you know this not because you are stronger, but because you are lighter. It came the moment you didn't get angry, even though you still had a reason. The moment you chose to walk away instead of proving your worth, in a single exhale, but this time, an exhale to release, not to brace. And you know what? That was the moment you were born again. Have you ever felt like you had just been reborn? Share the first sign that made you realize it, a small gesture, a big decision, a moment when you no longer needed to prove anything to anyone. Don't dismiss those moments, because they are the signs that you've begun living as your truest self without needing permission. It's time to pause and realize the things that once fit you now feel too tight. The people who once stood by you no longer understand the new language of your heart. The old dreams no longer keep you up at night. There's nothing wrong. You are simply growing in the way your soul has always wanted. There's no need to go back to an earlier version of yourself. No need to explain why you've changed. No need to apologize because your light makes others step back. You have crossed the gray zone, and no one can take you back. Living as yourself is not selfish. It simply means you're no longer performing. You no longer have to be the positive one all the time. No longer need to smile when it hurts. No longer need to shrink yourself just to keep others comfortable. You are living now with all parts of your being, light and shadow, and that makes you shine brighter than ever. And when you live as a new person, when you stop trying to become someone else, when you begin to accept every part of you, even the scars, then the very thing that once hurt the most becomes the platform you rise from. And in the next part, we will look back at everything you've let go, only to realize nothing is truly lost. It's all just being rearranged so you can reach your highest destiny. There are moments in life that make you stand still, not because of pain, but because you just know your life will never be the same again. The shock comes without warning. No knock, no letter. It just arrives. And tears apart, everything you thought was solid and drops you into a landscape, completely unfamiliar. No map, no instructions, just you and a truth you can't unsee. When Neptune, the planet of intuition, inner depth, and unseen forces, forms a trine with Jupiter, the planet of expansion and truth, another door opens. Not a door of the outer world, but the door of the soul. You begin to see what you once didn't dare to look at. You begin to hear a calling you once ignored, and yes, it hurts, but it is pain with a purpose, the kind that brings you home to yourself. This isn't collapse, this is deconstruction so that you can be rebuilt in truth. I used to believe that beautiful things had to arrive gently, but it turns out the most precious gifts come wrapped in the roughest coverings, like a box, tied with coarse twine, no ribbons, no shine, but inside is the very thing that changes your life forever. The biggest shocks in life are often gifts wrapped in the paper of challenge, because if it doesn't break you open, you'll never open at all. The truth won't break you. What breaks you is trying to survive as a version of yourself that has already died. What sends you to the edge is avoidance. The way you pretend not to see, the way you cling to what has rotted, the way you choose momentary comfort instead of true healing. But when you finally dare to look straight into it, when you dare to name the fear, when you dare to say, I'm not who I used to be, that's when you open the door to something beyond logic. You don't lose yourself. When you face the truth, you simply fall away from the version of you you've already outgrown and fall into a deeper place, where you are finally seen by your own self for the first time. What was the moment that shook you awake? Write it down, because someone out there might be waiting for your story to help them find themselves. A breaking point, a goodbye, a fall, a look, a dream, a long silence. Each of us has that first shock. The moment we lost something only to find everything we had forgotten inside ourselves. The shock is not the end. It is the beginning, buried beneath the ashes. It is the fall that takes you to the bottom, and because of that, it is the rise that finally unfolds, on wings you never dared to spread. It arrives so you no longer have to live attached to what dims your light. A person walks away, something collapses, a dream dissolves, not because you weren't worthy, but because your soul is ready to ascend to a higher layer, where nothing built on fear or illusion can follow you. You no longer see the world with old eyes, and right there, a calling begins to whisper your name. No longer survival, no longer getting by, no longer pretending to be strong, but living fully in truth. You begin to understand. I was born for something greater, something deeper, something that is no longer shaped by fear. And now, when everything has changed, when you are no longer the you of yesterday, a voice begins to rise, not through sound, but through vibration. A mission is beginning quietly, without hurry, but with such depth you cannot turn back. In the next chapter, we will look together at what your soul has quietly pieced together from the fragments, and the gift that's coming next is no longer a lesson, but a blessing. There comes a moment in life when what once made you happy no longer satisfies, when shallow conversations leave you exhausted, when stable jobs start to feel like velvet cages, and when the light inside you begins to whisper, it's time to truly live. The 10th house, your house of career, legacy, and soul purpose, is being powerfully activated now. Jupiter, your ruling planet, is currently residing in Gemini. This means your influence no longer lives where you stand, but where you share. You were not born to keep truth locked within. You were born to send it to places you never imagined you'd reach. I believe every person has a calling, and it does not come when you are perfect. It comes when you are honest enough with yourself. When your soul is ready, the universe will not let you live an ordinary life. It will make you feel restless. In places you used to love, it will make you feel alone. Among people who once felt close, it will make you realize you've outgrown the roles that once fit you. And that is the call. Success doesn't come from what you have, but from knowing who you are and daring to live that truth. You don't need praise, you need truth in every word you speak. Every choice you make, every moment you silently walk away, because purpose doesn't need a stage. It only needs your full presence in the right place at the right time with an open heart. You don't need to be the best. You just need to be the one, aligned with the mission God placed within you. There are doors that don't open with skill, only with radical truth about why you were created. Don't be afraid if things are falling away, if the dreams you once cherished now feel like burdens. If the work, the spaces, the relationships no longer hold your reflection, this is not a crisis. This is soul realignment. You are not being lost, you are being called back. It's the moment you stand before a decision and your heart races, not out of fear, but because you know this is your departure signal. It's the moment you meet someone's gaze, and in a single heartbeat, you realize there's something unfinished in this lifetime, and you can't live as you once did any longer. If you're hearing this now and you feel like something inside you is being awakened, write it down. I am ready to step into my soul's mission. Your comment might be the door someone else is waiting for, someone standing at the edge of a calling, but not yet brave enough to step through. You didn't come here just to go to school, get a job, and retire. You came here to open something in others through your truth. One word you speak could save someone. One action you take could set off a chain reaction of healing. One lesson you've overcome could become a map for someone lost in the dark, and this is how Sagittarius leaves a mark on the world through light that is shared. And in the next part, we will uncover a very special gift that only Sagittarius holds, and why the world has been waiting for you to awaken it. You think this is the end? No, this is just the beginning, because your soul gift is about to speak. Sagittarius, you are no longer someone who needs others to show you the way, because now you have become the torch. A torch that doesn't wait to be lit from the outside, but ignites from within, with truth, with grit, with an unshakable faith. You've walked through days so silent, you thought your soul had fallen asleep. You've held yourself together in storms that tried to swallow you whole. You've whispered to yourself, maybe I'm not enough. But still you rose, and that is what makes you different. That is what makes you a living witness to a new era that is just beginning. This era is no longer for souls who live by fear. It is for you, the one who fell, but didn't stay down, the one who dared to face themselves, the one who chose to let go of the old identity to live from something truer. And now you lead not by shouting, But by standing steady and luminous, you become a witness not of noisy glory, but of quiet, profound transformation. And even though you don't know what lies ahead, you still move forward. Because now you trust yourself. Thank you, Sagittarius, for not leaving halfway, for daring to face the darkness inside, instead of running from it. For being brave enough to look at yourself with forgiving eyes. Thank you for choosing to awaken, because when you awaken, you don't just save yourself, you awaken a part of the soul of this world. If these words have touched your heart, if you feel the call, if some part of you is trembling to be seen, to be known, to be remembered, even in silence, share this video, not just for you, but for another soul, standing at the edge, between letting go and stepping forward, who needs only a word, a spark, a sign, to believe they are not alone. Like this video, subscribe and leave a comment. I have remembered who I am. Because sometimes just one sentence like that is enough to open a door no one saw coming. You don't need to have all the answers. You only need to know this: you are not an accident. You are a divine arrangement. And this moment is yours.